Hi, this is Terry with the Des Moines, Iowa User Group. And in our Advanced Admin Study Group today, we looked at the Sales Cloud topics. That included our price books, products, scheduled products, quotes, as well as forecast. So if you are studying along with us, those are the topics that we hit today. And I wish you well as you continue to study. Please follow the channel so that you're able to stay up with us every week as we continue to work through this study group. All right, welcome everyone. This is the fifth week, I think, already that we have been working through the study group. So we're making a lot of progress. You're doing a great job. So thank you for those of you who have done all your presentations up to date. They were fantastic. Today we're hitting the Sales Cloud topics, and we're going to jump straight into those presentations now.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, everyone. So today, as Terry mentioned, we're going to go over Sales Cloud applications. So for today, we're going to be going over products, price books, product scheduling, and quotes. So for products. So has anyone bought laundry detergent lately? If so, you bought a product. Products are items or services businesses provide. There's a special product family field within the object. It isn't required, however, it is useful in forecasting, which Matt will talk about a little bit later. Active products can be used in opportunities, but you need to make sure your opportunities have the correct price book or you will not see the correct product. You can add products to an opportunity using the product related list located here. Now we're going to talk a little bit about price books. Price books give products their monetary value in Salesforce. There are two types, standard and custom. Standard price books are your master list. So it has every single product within your organization. If it's not in the standard price book, then you cannot put it in a custom price book. Every product must have a price book entry for each currency. So if you have USD, you're using multiple currencies, for example, USD and Canadian dollar, you have to have that same product, you have to enter the same product twice, but with the different currencies. Custom price books are a lot more flexible. Multiple, as shown, you can do the multiple combinations shown here. I do want to touch on the last point though, defining which users can use which price books. Users can gain access to price books by sharing it, which I'll go touch a little bit on later. Now I want to go into the price comparisons, standard, sales, and list price. Standard price is defined in the standard price book. Note that you do have to create the standard price in Salesforce Classic. It is the default price for a product. If there are multiple currencies, it will be a default for for the currency as well. Now moving on to the sales price. It is defined in the opportunity under the under the product related list, as we talked about earlier. And then for list price, it's defined in the custom price book. It can reflect the standard price, but it's not mandatory. You can sell the same product, but you can have it in different departments. So, for example, here you have the Genwatt diesel, 1000 kW. You can sell that, but in the market, in the supplier department, that can be like 90,000 instead of the 100,000 price listed here. So for security and access, there are a lot of gotchas in this section. So once you add a product, you won't be able to edit it without the edit opportunity product sales price permission. And price books have a special org wide default, which is which you can use it within your opportunities. View only, you can see it, but you cannot use it. And then no access means you cannot see it or use it. In order to have full access to the cloud applications, users must have the CRED access to the objects shown here: products, opportunity products, price books, and price book entry. In opportunities, you must have one price book. Once the products are added, you can't change the sales price anymore. It's all calculated in there. To add the price book, you can do it two ways: from the product related list or the price book related list on the record. And then to remove it, you just have to delete or deactivate the price book entry. So, first scenario: Regal Network is working with Shiftwell Consulting to set up their products in Salesforce. They work with USD, AUD, and CAD currencies. A sales associate sends a case to a consultant from Shiftwell named Sam, stating they cannot add a product without a Canadian amount without a Canadian uh, product to an opportunity. What should Sam look at in order to solve this case? So, is there anyone that would like to jump in?
I think you should look at the price book and see if it has an entry with this CAD currency. Canadian, yeah.
You can also check to see that it's active. There are multiple places where things can be either active or not. The price book entry, the price book that you're looking at. So that would be something else to check.
Mm-hmm. Any other ones before I move forward?
Do you have the actual answer as well, or
are you saying you gonna answer?
no? Do you have the answer?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
But I
okay,
thought
good. Okay, good.
Terry,
No.
you look like you were trying to answer too. So I was like, all right, Terry, give it a shot.
No, I am not going to answer the questions for you.
Good to know. Alrighty. So the answers that I thought of were check the product's price book, check if the product and the currency is in the standard price book. I also thought of checking if the product has a standard price in that currency, and then check if the product is active, because it could also be that the product is not active in that price book.
So I do want to jump in before you go to your next one here, because Jude made the same comment as your first flag there of check the product's price book. Is it the price book or is it the price book entry?
For the orange flag, I was thinking more of it would be the price book entry to see if it's active.
Yes, yeah, price book entry. So words will make a difference there. So do watch that. It's the price book entry is correct.
Okay.
And Terry, this is George. Quick question on that. The price book itself could be inactive.
Yes, it could be. Yes.
That would be a way for what Jude was saying to be correct.
That's true.
And that's,
yes.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of the price book entry. That was my error.
I assumed so, but I just wanted to.
But good point. Yeah,
wanted to verify that. Yep. Awesome. Very good. Like that.
Thank you. Alrighty. So now I'll be talking about scheduling. Okay, so product scheduling are products that are paid or delivered in installments. So the difference is quantity schedules quantity schedules are when customers pay once but receive the products into increments or installments. So, like a magazine subscription, you pay for 1 year, but you receive different magazines each month. So, revenue, moving on to revenue scheduling, that is when customers receive orders. Um, sorry, the customer receives the product once, but make regular payments. So as you can see, this car here, you receive the car and then you schedule prepayments um, based on the car dealership. And there is another one that I would like to mention: quantity and revenue schedules. Those are when customers receive their orders on a delivery schedule and make payments on a schedule. So and then I would like to talk about a special one before I get into my example. There's something called default schedules that I learned about as I was doing this. And they're used if all of your customers make product payments on the same timetable. So default schedules are associated with a specific product in a specific price book within Salesforce. Now, my example here for Girl Scout cookies is the for quantity and revenue scheduling. I thought of Girl Scout cookies as the supplier sends the Girl Scout chapters their Girl Scout cookies, whenever they're ordered, like whenever they order a big shipment. And then it's also default schedule because the Girl Scouts sell the cookies to a public, like at a store. So, like, well, in my neighborhood they sell it in front of a store or in front of the train station, so people are getting that one product at the same time, free. So how can an admin set up project scheduling? It's pretty fast process. So you go to setup and you put in product scheduling settings, and then you click on uh, that. Oh, and then you click on it below, and then you have the option of enabling both quantity and revenue scheduling, and you can also enable it for all products at your choosing. The customizable schedules, you can enable it for default schedules and validation rules so that they're bypassed. Um, but there's a yeah, you can do it that way, and then you can click save once you're done. For quotes are users can track alternative pricing using quotes. So if they have if they have if a user has if a customer has a price that they want to pay for the products against the regular price, this is when quotes come in. You can create it you could create a PDF and email it to consumers. We as administrators have the ability to enable quotes and customize them and create those templates. And then you can email the quote to the end user using the email template. So how does quotes work? Well, when a quote is created, products on an opportunity are added as quote line items, and then the opportunity products in conjunction with the opportunity products, they give them can be added products can be added and given on discount as a per item basis, which gives you the quote, which are taxes, shipping costs, and are added to the total. You can synchronize quotes. So if any changes that happen between the opportunity product and the quote, they'll always stay. You don't have to change them manually. I'm sorry. They're automatically changed. quote PDFs. There are two types. There's standard and custom. The templates must be active in order to use it. However, the users cannot edit the PDF file. They would have to the admin would have to make changes on the template before they can, and then create a new quote PDF. All right. So scenario 2. This time, this is multiple choice. So Regal Network is working with Sam from Shiftwell again to figure out if they should email quotes to their clients when it's approved. They ask Sam, what are the considerations for emailing quotes? So is it send an email template with the quote amount? Once you create a quote template, you can edit the PDF file. There's absolutely nothing you can do with this. Or create a PDF template for quotes and edit the template. What are our thoughts here?
Can you edit the template?
So are you saying the green one?
Yeah.
I agree with Patrick.
Is there anyone else that seconds that? Oh, never mind. So yes, create a PDF template for quotes and then edit the template. So these are the resources that I've used. And thank you very much. Oh, before I stop sharing, I'm sorry. Before I stop sharing. For those that are watching this via YouTube, this is the module that I used. And this is the other module that I use that's listed in the resources document.
Oh, awesome. Very good. Yeah. Anybody use quotes? Any of you using that in your orgs?
I've tested it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Someday I'd like to.
Yeah. I always get your name wrong. Marciana, right?
Marciana,
is that right?
Yes.
I really liked your analogy with the scheduled products. The way you broke that down, that slide, I thought was fantastic. On the quotes side, I kind of think of quotes as and I'll build off of your product schedule. Let's say I want to go buy a car and I go up to the dealership and I know I'm going to get a car. So they know they've got an opportunity to sell me something. Maybe it's $50,000, but I don't know which car I want. So perhaps they quote me multiple different cars. And once I have kind of landed on the one that I like the best, they would sync that then over to their opportunity. And then that one opportunity is the one that they close win or close loss. So that might be kind of a way of building off of your other analogy there with cars. So I like that. Very, very good. Any questions on quotes or price book products, any of those topics?
I've got one question. This is George, and it's on quotes. Marciana, phenomenal class. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And I haven't worked with quotes, so where I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around in the big picture is this. Opportunities are very tightly controlled, with what the salesperson can do. You can have approval processes in place if they want to give a discount, etc. Quotes, it seems to me that that's a whole nother thing that you can work around. And I guess you'd have to create validation rules on the quotes as well. Can anyone elaborate on that? Because it's bypassing all of the, when you add a line item to the opportunity, the salesperson can't change it unless they have a certain permit. There are all these controls. And then you have this quotes thing, which I have not used, which seems to bypass a lot of the safeguards.
Anyone want to take that?
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I haven't used quotes with any of my projects either. So this was really fun to learn. I think there's a section where it bypassed the validation rules as you're enabling it. No, that's for product schedules. Sorry. I think you can do validation rules for quotes. I haven't tried it, unfortunately, and I'm sorry I won't be able to help you with that.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right on. George, think of them as just another object, because that's all it is. It's just another full first class object. It looks an awful lot like opportunities and opportunity line items. It's got a lot of the same types of fields. It's just quote and quote line items. You've got the ability to add your validation rules there as well. You would have to replicate those over on that new object if you needed to verify that some of those same restrictions are in place. But yeah, it's a first class object, just like anything else in the system.
Great.
Just like opportunities.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? That's a good question.
Real quick.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Marciana.
Okay. I said, I think the fact that you have to enable it, I think that's what's getting to some people. I think that's what makes you think about it like differently. But like you said, Terry, it's just the same object. You just have to do special things with it.
And I didn't catch, you had the other question?
Yeah, I was going to put out there real quick. I've not used products or quotes, and I can see where products would have its place and quotes would have its place. But if you're only going to use quotes to generate quotes, is there a situation where you'd want to use one and not the other, or would you always want to use both, or is there a time frame on when you would use quotes versus products and products versus quotes?
Yeah, you can't use quotes without product or without an opportunity.
Or without an opportunity.
Without an opportunity. I suppose you could do quotes with no products. I'm not sure what the value add would be if you were to do that, but in theory, you wouldn't have to add. I don't know that there would be a really good use case for that, Boone, because when you synchronize your quote, meaning so if I'm looking at 3 different cars and I'm choosing between them, you've got 3 quotes out there for me. The quote that I choose is going to be synced over to the opportunity, and when you sync it, it's going to move those line items from so the quote line item is going to shift over to the opportunity product line item. So if you're not using products, I don't know that you really gain anything by leveraging quotes.
No, it was just a question because I was curious. You can create a PDF quote, and you could have those pretty PDFs going out. But if does it make sense to have just that, or your example does explain that probably you'd want to have products on your opportunities as well to utilize it the best way.
Yeah. All right, Matt.
I was just going to give a quick practical example of that. So, because I've used this at AMC movie theaters, and basically, so the opportunity that we're quoting is an event rental. So somebody takes over the movie theater, brings in a group, maybe they buy them concessions, things like that. So for us, the product is a movie ticket as a product, a popcorn as a product, a drink as a product. And when we provide a quote, the quote is for 50 times tickets plus 40 times popcorn and 40 times drinks. So the quote is an overall event with a bunch of products that make it up. That's just how we use it in practical application.
Cool.
So I am going to share my screen. And is everybody able to see that?
We see your notes side.
Yeah, I was going to say we see the note screen.
Let's see here. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. So I am covering forecasting today. And this is comprised of 2 modules here. So the collaborative forecast setups and collaborative forecast configuration. And first thing, I found this definition on one of the Salesforce pages just to differentiate between pipeline and forecast. Pipeline, these words are kind of thrown around, and for me, it helped provide a little bit of clarity. There's pipeline in the definition of Salesforce, and the pipeline in Salesforce definition literally means an opportunity with the stage that is listed as pipeline as its forecasting category. There's also the word pipeline that people use in everyday, sales operation. And pipeline, to me, in the sales world, often means any project that you're working on in any stage. But so I just wanted to differentiate between the two. Pipeline in Salesforce is a opportunity with a stage defined as pipeline. And then a forecast is a subset of that pipeline that it just includes deals that are supposed to close within a certain time frame, within a quarter, within a month, something like that. So just a kind of a definition to differentiate between the two as we jump into this. So like everything else, forecasting has to be enabled to get started. And you'll see within the setup page, you have forecasts underneath sales. And most of the things that we would talk about will be on this forecast settings page where you can get everything set up as you'd expect. So the first thing you do is enable forecasts that you can even have it at your org. And once you've got it set up, you will define what are called forecast types. So the terminology forecast type is really a combination of 5 different things. When you set up your type, it's going to actually have within that a label of forecast type, which we'll go through, how we're going to measure it, whether it's quantity or revenue, the date that we're going to measure it against, and then if it's products, the products that we'll display, and the fields will display. So I'll go through each one of those in a little bit more detail. But one thing I should mention is if you have a type set up and you disable that type, it's actually going to disable any quotas and adjustments that you have set against it. And I'll come back to that a little bit later. This stuff kind of all ties to each other, and it'll make more sense as we go along. So forecast type starts out with this first thing at the top, which actually is labeled as forecast type. When you do the type, you can do forecasts by opportunities. You can do it by opportunity splits, and an opportunity split is where you have multiple people sharing credit for the opportunity. Overlay splits, where you can have other people involved with the opportunity, and it can exceed 100% credit. You can do it by product families, as Marciana just discussed, or you can do it by territory, or you can also do it by a custom opportunity currency field. So when I could run the forecast, I can run it by any of these different types, and that will define the overall forecast type. As far as the measurement goes, it's really just 2 choices. I can either run it off of revenue or I can run it off of quantity. And those 2 choices are not available for each of the items above. And I'll talk about that in a second. Next, I'm going to run the forecast by date. And so you can use different date fields. You can use the close date, you can use the product date, or you can use the scheduled date. You can run your forecast by any of these 3. So I mentioned that you can't do revenue and quantity for every opportunity. One of those examples is if you're doing either of the splits. If you're doing opportunity splits, you can only use revenue and you can only use close date. Same thing with overlay splits. If you want to forecast by overlay splits, you can only do that by revenue and you can only do that by close date. So this is all comprised of making up what is referred to as a forecast type. Last 2 parts of it, if you are doing a forecast by product, you can decide which products will be displayed. In the example in Trailhead, you've got software, hardware, the 2 different product families. You don't have to display all of them as part of the forecast. And then within the forecast, you can decide which fields you want to actually display. So this is really just kind of a list view type behavior of what you want to show up on the forecast. And once you have those 5 items all put together, which thing you're forecasting on, the way you're measuring it, the date, the products, and the opportunity fields, that all together comprises a forecast type. Once you've got the type set up, you have the ability to roll it up 2 different ways. You can do what's called an individual forecast or a cumulative forecast. So for an individual forecast, each opportunity is going to fit in exactly one category. So it's either pipeline, best case, commit, or closed. It can't be in both. With cumulative, it actually is going to roll up everything that would fit within that category. So for example, if I want to look at my commit forecast, which is the 3rd level down here, for an individual roll-up method, the commit forecast is only going to count those opportunities that are exactly listed as commit. Whereas for cumulative, you're going to get everything that's in the commit status as well as everything that's already past that, in this case being closed. So there's benefits to each one of those. I could see scenarios where you would want to know your forecast exactly by what stage it's in. And I could see other times where, for your open pipeline, you want to know everything that's Salesforce definition pipeline, but also things that are in the best case or in the commit status as well. So these are different ways to roll it up. You can roll it up individually, or you can roll it up cumulatively of everything in that category. Next thing you'll do, this is still part of setting up forecast. The next thing is you're going to default what the display is. So you can set the period, and the forecast period can either be monthly or quarterly. You can determine when the forecast starts. You can go as far back as 15 months in the past, or you can start up to 15 months in the future. And then how far you can display up to 1 month, from 1 month up to 15 months. And I've mentioned this twice now about quotas and adjustments. If you do change the setup, it purges quotas and adjustments. So what does that mean? We'll talk more about quotas and adjustments in a second. But quotas are manually inputted. So that's not defined by anything in Salesforce. You manually input a quota. And if you change the forecast type or you change the default display date, it wipes out any quotas that you've manually inputted against that. Same thing with adjustments. So, for example, a rep could put in their expected revenue for an opportunity, and their manager can say, "I don't agree with that. What that revenue is, I'm gonna increase it or decrease it." Those are adjustments. Once you've manually inputted quotas and manually inputted adjustments, if you change the date range on the display, it wipes all that stuff out. So something to be conscious of before you make a change to the display or before you add your quotas and adjustments. Enabling users. So this is a little different. You enable forecasting for users on the user object, not on the profile. There's a couple different places where you can enable them, but one of them is to actually go to the individual user, click on their name, and check this box right here for allow forecasting. It's a little bit of a cumbersome way to do it one by one. There's a second way that you can enable them, but it is on the user object. It's not on the profile. I could see that potentially being a question. That's why I'm kind of harping on it. One other aspect of users, you can have partner portal users. Their opportunities can be included as well, although the partner portal users won't have visibility of the forecast themselves. You can include their stuff, but they can't see it. The other area where you can add users is through the hierarchy. So similar to the territory management hierarchy, the role-based hierarchy is the starting point for this right here. The forecast hierarchy exactly mirrors the role hierarchy that you have for your organization. And once you go into hierarchy, you'll have each one of these positions and you'll enable users by position. So this is a little bit quicker way to do it. For example, if you have 10 team members on the Eastern sales team, you can click on enable users. You get all of those users in a box. You move them from the not enabled to enabled box. You can enable several users at one time. But it is based on the role hierarchy. And you can see here, you move from available to enabled. Once you've done this step, you can set a person up to be a manager. And in order for individual forecasts, you just need to have them enabled. In order to roll up forecast to a team, you have to have a manager. So in this scenario, since I only have one user in my trailhead, Linda became the forecast manager. So she is the manager of the direct sales team, which means she can have an individual forecast and she can also have a forecast of this entire team rolled up to her. That's how you get team forecasts. Everybody that has a team has to be assigned as a manager. So if you want to have a team forecast, you have to have the individual users enabled and you have to have a manager selected in order to get a team's forecast rolled up to them. I'm kind of going through a lot of stuff here. I can keep on going, but I just want to pause.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that. If you have a level there that doesn't have somebody assigned, and you're expecting your forecast to be able to roll up to where the CEO can see it, you will break that branch as well, unless they've fixed that late. To me, that feels like a bug, but to Matt, to your point, you have to have a manager. It's at every one of those levels going up. Otherwise, you won't be able to see past that view.
Good point. Good point. And there can only be one manager at each branch of the tree. So there can be a manager of the Western sales team and a manager of the Eastern sales team, but there can only be one manager of the direct sales team. And so just, for what it's worth, if that isn't how your company is set up to roll up, you actually need to change the role hierarchy to match the way that you do want it set up. Okay. So territory based. Not sure why I have this picture on here, because that's not it. Disregard the picture. Territory based management. So Greg went through this one last week. So if territories are enabled and you've got your types and models set up, you can assign a forecast manager through territories. So if you've noticed, you kind of set different parts of this up in different areas. You enable forecasts and set up forecasting types underneath the forecasting tab. You can enable users directly on the user. To set up forecast managers for territories, you actually do it on the territory section of Salesforce. So there's a forecast manager page within the territory page layout. They actually show how to do that on that part of when you do that module on Trailhead. So you just go to the territory, you view that hierarchy, which is probably different than the role hierarchy. And then you edit the actual territory, and on the actual territory, you can add a forecast manager. And I intended to put a picture of that, and I've got this one again, so disregard. So territories. So you can have, before I go to this next slide, you can have simultaneously role-based forecasting and territory-based forecasting. As long as you have territories turned on, you can do it both ways. You can do it with the roles, you can do it with territories, and there's probably a need to do it both ways if you are doing forecasting. So changing names and mapping, pretty straightforward. Forecast categories is actually a field on the opportunity object. So you have these 5. It's the 4 we already mentioned: pipeline, best case, commit, close, and then there's another category called omitted. And each one of these is against the stage. So you can see when you have your different stages within your opportunity process, forecast category is one of these. So you can say if it's closed loss, I want to exclude it from my forecast, obviously. So these are your 5 categories. And when you change this, you have a value, or in another part, it's referred to as the label. So you have a value, a label, you have an API name, you have this status category, and then you can assign colors to it. And just FYI, these are the 5 status categories, and those cannot be changed. So it has to have exactly these 5. You can't add any, you can't take any away. You can call them whatever you want, but at the end of the day, they have to equate to these 5 statuses. So you can change the name, you can change the API, you can change the colors, but you cannot change the actual status that it ties to. And then when it comes to mapping, again, so the forecast category is a field on the opportunity. The stages, of course, also a field on the opportunity. When you edit the stages, you can edit the forecast pipeline just like you edit any of these other fields, type and probability. And so that's pretty straightforward. Okay, adjustments. I mentioned adjustments before. I don't know if this is too in-depth with adjustments. The short version of adjustments are, I can take an opportunity. There may be situations where I take an opportunity and I have an actual amount and I have expected revenue, but for whatever reason, for forecasting purposes, I want to adjust what that number is. And rather than doing weird workarounds or putting the wrong number on the opportunity, I can just adjust the forecast. So you can adjust, you can change what the forecast is going to show without modifying or messing up the opportunity. So if you enable adjustments, there's just a button here, owner adjustments and manager adjustments. You can do just the owner or just the manager. Once you turn it on, you're turning it on for all forecast types. So you can't, for example, have adjustments for a role-based hierarchy, but not territory. It's either all or nothing. They're either on or they're off. Now, each type has its own adjustment. So again, a type is a combination of I'm going to do opportunities, revenue based on close date. I'm going to show these fields. That overall is a type. Each type has its own adjustments. So when you make an adjustment to an opportunity forecast, it doesn't change it on all of those different types. It changes it on just one. You have to change them one at a time. This is one I got out of the additional information. So managers can view all of their subordinates all the way down, but they can only make adjustments one level down. So if you have a sales rep who has a manager who reports to a VP, the manager can see the sales rep and adjust the sales rep. The VP can see the sales rep, but since they're 2 levels down, they can't make changes to they can't make adjustments. And it doesn't go upwards. So subordinates don't see the manager and they don't see the manager's adjustments. So if I'm the manager, I have a sales rep, I think they're putting in too high of expected revenue and I adjust all of their stuff down. They actually are not going to see that I've adjusted all of their forecasts down. I can see it, but they can't see what I've done with their stuff. And if both people make an adjustment, so I have an actual expected revenue on an opportunity, the rep makes an adjustment, and I make an adjustment as a manager, the manager's adjustment takes priority over the rep. A lot of information.
Would the manager see that that change that the subordinate made?
Yes. So the manager does see the rep, but the rep does not see what the manager did on their own opportunities.
Okay. And I think you said this, you said it, but I just want to confirm. Do you know, and maybe this is a question more for everybody, on the community side, like for partner communities, so managers cannot exist as like the partner community users, correct? It has to be standard Salesforce.
I'm not sure on that one.
I'm just thinking out loud.
It sounds like it because you enable the manager in the hierarchy, in the internal hierarchy.
It's a role based, and your community would have a whole different role structure than your internal, is what I'm thinking. So yeah, I think it would have to be an internal.
Okay.
I think anybody familiar with? I'm just trying to. For those of you who have communities, you might be able.
We do, and just from what Matt was saying, that manager enablement and identifying the manager is in the internal hierarchy, and it's totally outside of the external hierarchy.
That's what I would think too.
Okay, and that's what I thought. I just want to make sure, and I figured this was a good time to ask, because I can't even get Salesforce to give me this answer. Thank you.
Good question. Just wanted to point out real quick, this is something that needs to be set up in two places. As I mentioned before, forecasts are kind of all over the map. You enable users on the user object. You enable forecasts on the forecast page. You do territory managers on the territory page. And once you have enabled adjustments, then you have to go to the profile to have the ability to override forecasts. So you can turn on forecast adjustments for the org, but you also then, for people who are going to use that, you also need to have their profile give them the ability to override forecasts as well. So this is kind of like you get to touch every screen on Salesforce to do this. Okay, currency and quotas. Just a quick note on currency. You have two options. You can use the company currency across the board, or you can allow the user to use their own currency. If your org has multiple currencies, you can do that. And then quotas. So you can enable quotas. Again, that's something first you enable it, again, from that same forecast setup page, forecast settings, you enable quotas. And there's two ways to enter quotas. You can manually enter quotas, and that's actually done in setup, which is a little weird to me. So it's not like a tab. You actually have to go to setup to add in quotas. It's a very manual process. Or you can load a bunch of quotas via a data loader or via an API, which would probably be a much more efficient way to do it. I don't have the specifics on how that goes in, but just if you do the manual version, you go to feature settings, forecast, and the forecast quotas, and then you pick a month. You decide if it's going to be quantity or revenue, and then you put in one person's quota at a time. So I did a few of them just to get some data to populate for a screen. It's a pretty cumbersome process. So I think that data loader would be a better way to do that. And once you do that, and you get to the forecast page, now you'll actually have a quota here to go against the different forecast categories. And then this percentage here is actually showing how much you've got against your quota. So that's pretty valuable to have that in there. Okay. Last section here is reporting. So these are examples of reports. The reports for forecasting are pretty straightforward. It's like any other report. This kind of gave me an opportunity to practice with creating custom report types. So basically, when you do a custom report type, you're basically defining almost kind of like a template, I guess you could say, of a report based on what object are you going to be basing this report off of. And the two that are relevant to this module is forecasting items and forecasting quotas. So if you want to run a report that's just based off of forecasts, use forecasting items. If you do want to include quotas, you can do that as well. Once you create that custom report type, you can see here you're gonna put it store in category. So you create the object, it's based off of this, you give it a label, and you're gonna store it in a category. And then these are the categories. So, you click on opportunity, you get all the different types of reports based off of opportunity. So there's one that's based off of forecast, and this custom report template that I've created is now available underneath forecast as forecasting items. And then I'll be able to make a report that uses the forecast as the primary object. And then you can make any different kind of report based off of that. Or the same thing with quotas. So I have one question. There was not a whole lot of forecast related questions on the practice exams, but I will throw this one out there, and whoever would like to answer it. Sales manager is new to Salesforce and has accessed the forecasting tab. The forecast displayed is based on revenue. He asked if it is possible to forecast based on different bases. What types of forecasts are possible with collaborative forecasting? Product family, quantity, sales stage, quote amount, revenue. There's 3 right answers.
I'll take product family for 100, Matt.
That's 1.
By quantity.
That's 2.
Revenue.
Bingo. Y'all nailed it. It's a little bit kind of tricky because the way it's worded, because really the answer is 2. It's really revenue and quantity, but within product family, you can also do quantity as well. So good job. You guys figured it out. And that is all I have. The resources I used was just the 2 modules, and then the Salesforce additional information linked to some pages on those modules.
Excellent. Well done. So what if you wanted to do forecasting off of revenue and quantity?
You cannot do both of them on the same type. It has to be 2 separate types.
And that's what I was going to go next. So you can do multiple types then, and have one be quantity, one be revenue.
Yes, you can have up to 4 types, and again, a type is all of those 5 attributes together. Right. And if you can have 4 different combinations of type, date, measurement, and fields to display.
Yeah. So the one screenshot you had that actually was a screenshot of the forecast module. If you have multiple types, you're able to switch between whichever view of that you want, or whichever type, so that you can't see them all on the same screen, but you can. It's kind of like a list view where you can change your list view from a recently viewed to all. You can do that similar on your forecast screen to switch between your different types as well to see your views. Good stuff. You covered a lot of things. You covered a lot of the things that I was thinking needed to be covered there as well on that topic. So well done. Well done. Any questions on forecast? Anybody using it that has any experience that you want to share? We've got 5 minutes left. I don't think it's worth going into the Q&A on my side. So any questions on either topic today? The one thing I was noticing as we look through the study guide, what I see on this advanced admin is that they're hitting topics that just aren't a part of the regular admin study or exam. And I think that's one thing that they've been trying to do a lot more of, is to prevent some of that overlap. And so when we're looking at this Sales Cloud, we're hitting 2 topics that aren't things that we don't get into this level of detail on. And I think that's similar to what we'll see tomorrow, next week on the Service Cloud side. We're hitting a couple areas of that we can all talk about cases to all we want, but they're getting into those detailed sections of some of the features that you may or may not be as familiar with. So good job, both of you, today on those presentations.